Hello, friend. This is Ryan Hicks of TalkToProfit.com. And for this Reseller Friday, I want to talk to you about why you must stop listening to reseller quitters. This happens all the time. I've been reselling for decades, and this is a constant. It's actually interesting because today it's easier than ever to be a reseller. You have more tools available to you, less guesswork about stuff. The inventory supply seems to be almost infinite. And there's more people quitting today. Now, part of that could be just because there's more people reselling today. So there's more of a notice, and also social media has risen. And so there's more voices out there being vocal about quitting, where in the past they might have just disappeared. But it does seem like reselling has brought in a lot of people who are kind of weaker, kind of looking for easy money. And when it starts getting a little hard, they go and quit. But they don't just go quit, they go tell everybody else all the reasons why selling on eBay or Poshmark or Mercari or Depop or whatever site it is, Etsy, Amazon, that why you shouldn't be selling on there, why it's so hard, why the fees are so high, or whatever it is. You can't listen to these people. They'll drag you down into the muck and mire where they are. They'll drag you down into the failure pit. And they give a lot of excuses that sometimes can be valid. They'll say, well, I'm putting in more work than ever and I'm getting less results. That could be true. It probably is very true for them. But you have to improve. With any business, you have to grow. If you just keep doing, if I was doing what I was doing 20 years ago, reselling, I would not be successful. Can't happen because so many things have changed over the years. Over 20 years ago, we were taking money orders and cash in the mail from people. You can't do that today. Who's gonna send you a money order or cash in the mail to pay for an item? It's gonna be so few people that you get no sales barely. If you even got one. Things change. The platforms change. They evolve. They generally get better. I know a lot of resellers whine about this and whine about that, but the reality is they get better. They get better for the buyers, they get better for the sellers, they get better all around. And the platforms have a delicate job of trying to balance the needs of the buyer to not get ripped off, not get scammed, to feel like they have some protection when they're buying something they can't see and touch and understand what it really is. They're just seeing pictures and a description that hopefully is accurate. And trying to protect the seller from getting ripped off from buyers who bait and switch or buy something and they want to return it after they borrowed it basically from you, and they wore a shirt one time and then they want to return. This platforms are trying to do their best to ensure both parties in the transaction are protected. You as a reseller must adapt. You must get better. You must adapt principles that big business is engaged in. You go to any big department store, you go to a Walmart, you go to a Target, you go to a Home Depot even, they have long return policies. You can return something within 90 days, I think. Some of those places, you don't even have to have a receipt. They are trying to make it easy on the customer. And yet I know so many resellers who, they don't even take returns. Or if they do, it's such a big process and so difficult that people just give up. When you refuse to adapt and you don't see what the customer wants, you don't even try to put the effort in to make the experience as good as possible for your customer. Because listen, if you're selling an item and it's a good quality item, why would you be afraid of taking a return? As a buyer, I look at that and think, why would this person say no returns? They don't believe in this item. They don't believe what they're selling me is actually what they are claiming it is. I'm going to move on to somebody who actually backs it up. Not because I want to return anything, but because if there is an issue, I want that to at least be an option. And I know people who exclusively, when they search on certain platforms, they look for free returns and they search by that. And they are not people who return a bunch of stuff. That's not what they're trying to do. They just don't want to even buy from somebody who doesn't believe in their product. And so many resellers are quitting because they've refused to adapt. I heard this one lady, she's a very sweet lady, and I feel compassion for her situation she's in. But she was talking about how, well, I used to be able to buy stuff for only $1 and now it's $5. Well, yes, when you used to be able to buy stuff for $1 too, you weren't getting the prices you can get today. Everything in the entire marketplace has went up in value, And so you're going to get more money potentially. But the thing is, first thing, there are places all over the place. There are thrift stores and little flea markets and stuff. You can still buy stuff for $1. That's still possible today. But you might have to do a little bit more work. And that's where most resellers fail. They don't want to do more work. They talk about doing more work, but then they don't actually go out and do more work. Well, all my thrift stores in my area don't sell very good, or the prices are too high. They don't have a good selection. Okay, I understand that. Go to a different area then. I've literally went to different states sourcing inventory. You can't even go out of your town, and then you're going to quit. You haven't put the effort forth. And you're not being fair to yourself and the potential of your business because you've refused to put in the effort. I'm not saying every reseller who quits has refused to put in the effort. Some might have really put in the effort, but here's one of the problems. You can put in a lot of effort toward the wrong thing. You go to all these thrift stores, you put in a lot of effort, but you haven't beforehand done any kind of research. You don't know what kind of products you're looking for. You don't know what sells well. You have done nothing to research and have some knowledge base into what you're actually selling. And then you go out there and put a bunch of work in, doing the wrong work, buying the wrong items, and then wonder why you're not getting sales. Then wonder why, well, I'm working so hard and I'm getting worse results. You can't listen to these people who are quitting. Why would you want to listen to a quitter? They might have some valid arguments, but as it relates to them and their personal, everybody's doing things differently. Few people are learning each and every day. I was talking to a reseller, and they're like, I don't understand how you have so much knowledge of all these brands. Like, I research every day. I learn new brands every single day. I learn new items every single day. Really? You do? Yes. And I've talked with so many resellers over the years that don't do that. The vast majority do not do that. What do? They go to a thrift store or they go to a flea market or whatever, and they look for stuff they sold before. Now, that's good. That's a valid thing. Of course, you want to keep an eye out for things you know actually sell. That's perfectly fine. But they don't ever look at anything unique. They never start to get an eye for, that could be valuable. That looks like something that could have value. Let me look it up. Let me research it. Some of them are so prideful, they don't even want to look things up. They don't, well, I don't want to look like I'm a reseller. Why? Who cares? So you're going to buy stuff when you didn't look it up and you don't actually even know if it's worth buying in the first place? This is how people get stuff. They get home and they realize it's not worth reselling, or it's only worth $5 and they thought it was worth $50. You got to put some research in. Now, you will, as you grow over the years, you'll learn a whole lot more, and there will be things you will just pick up and buy. You don't have to research. You don't have to research everything. I'm not telling you to do that. My point is, if you don't know, humble yourself and look it up. There's no shame in that. I look up stuff regularly, and I have touched hundreds of thousands of items over the years and looked up hundreds of thousands of items over the years. I have a very extensive knowledge of all kinds of brands, all kinds of items, all kinds of categories of items, and I still look up stuff because I want to learn. What is this? I've never heard of this before. What is this brand? Let me look it up. I'm always researching, always learning. And I would say that's probably the fundamental flaw in most people's reselling business, and is the reason why so many people quit. The reselling business can be hard, but it's one of those things that's very interesting. I don't know if you remember this, they might still make these, but as a kid, there's these things called Chinese finger torture device or something. It was basically like a tube made out of straw or something, and one person put one finger in one side, the other person put one finger in the other side, and when you tried to pull them away, it got tighter, and it held on even more. That's kind of the way reselling is. People are putting in effort, but they're putting it in this finger torture device, and as they put more and more hard work in, it pulls down and shrinks back even more and keeps them even further from their goals. It's not because the reselling business is the problem. It's because they're in the wrong area. They're doing the wrong things. They're refusing to learn. They're refusing to adapt. They're refusing to put the effort in. They talk about hard work, and they probably are legitimately working hard. But because they refuse to learn, they're refusing to grow, they're doing the hard work in the wrong way. They're doing the wrong things. I use this as an illustration often, but if you were to go out and want to dig a pond, and you're going to do it by a shovel when your neighbor has a backhoe that you could dig it up in 30 minutes, and it's going to take you days to do it with a shovel, why wouldn't you use the backhoe? And yet that's many people. They're out there with that shovel digging and digging. They're digging harder and harder and harder and wondering why they're not getting good results. And then they're going to quit. Oh, it's so hard. Yes, it's hard because you set the level of hardness, because it becomes a lot more difficult when you don't know things and when you refuse to learn and when the platforms are changing all around you and you're not adapting. I don't know why I'm not getting sales anymore. And you look, all their listings have no returns available. People are filtering you out. I don't know why I'm not getting sales. And you look, and then their prices are priced above market on everything. These are not methods you can use anymore and continue to get the sales that you want to get. Customers are getting more advanced. Customers have more options. When your options are worse than the other options on the marketplace, why would they choose you? And that's going to mean you get less sales because you're not adapting and you're not learning. And you're going to have to put more work in to get the same amount of sales. That is the natural result. So people are quitting because they're putting in more work and getting the same results or less results. Of course they are. That is exactly what you should expect when you're not growing, when you're not learning, when you're not constantly improving your processes and putting in the real effort. If I was going and sourcing the way I did 20 years ago, it would be a disaster because so many things have changed. 20 years ago, we didn't even have access to figure out what's sold, and it was a lot more difficult than it is today. We just literally on your phone can look up every single item, see what it's sold for and what platform, and make a wise decision to see, okay, this item is sold a lot, has a good sell-through rate, let me buy it. Things have improved so much, and yet people have gotten even lazier. And it's interesting because this is a weird thing. People think, well, but I work hard. Yes, but it's lazy work because you're doing the same thing. You're refusing to adapt. You're refusing to learn. You're refusing to grow. You put the hard work into the thing that is not working anymore and wonder why you're not getting the results you want. And listen, this is not to condemn those people who are quitting. I feel bad for them that they're quitting and that they're going off to work some job somewhere or whatever. But I despise these messages of quitting and why it's so hard. And, you might want to consider this yourself. And they're trying to discourage people. I never want to discourage anybody, especially when these people, and I've seen many of these people's videos, it's all the same thing. And you look at what they do, you look at their stores, you see these are people who have not adapted. They're continuing to do the same thing. They're refusing to put in the real effort, which, for example, especially when they complain about, oh, it's so hard to find items anymore. I can't find inventory in my area. Go outside your area then. You can keep making excuses, or you can do what you need to do to get the sales and get the success that you want. And that applies to any business. You can keep doing what you're doing that's not working, never learning, never growing, never adapting, or when you do adapt, it's to the easiest thing. Well, my electronics business isn't working, so I'm going to sell clothes now. Because you saw a bunch of resellers talking about selling clothes. Like, why don't you just get good at what you're doing first before you switch off to the next thing? Because after that, it'll be, clothes is so saturated, so now I'm going to sell auto parts. You just keep bouncing around until you have to quit because you're making no money. Get good at what you're doing. Learn each and every day. And yes, if you have to change, maybe you're in a very niche market and you have to change, do it. But learn and make sure that you've actually exhausted all options in that market you're in, instead of saying, well, it's getting a little hard, I got to go do something else now. And understand that reselling can be hard, but it's one of those things where you are putting the pressure on yourself. You set the hardness level. You can set, like a video game, you can set it to easy mode, or you can set it to hard mode. And most people are setting it on hard mode, and they're setting it on that by not putting the work in. Putting work in that is not working anymore. That's not getting the results anymore. And they keep doing the same thing by not learning. I emphasize that because it is so vitally important that you're constantly growing. You're learning what your market wants, what people are trying to buy, what they're looking for, and you start buying those items. You can't just go buy based on things that you bought 5 years ago that sold, or even things that you bought 5 months ago that sold. That certainly gives you valuable information, but it might not be valid today. You have to learn, you have to grow, you have to improve each and every day. And if you'll do that, legitimately do that, and put forth all the effort you need to put to get the results you want, it will start to become easier for you. I'm not saying it will never be hard. I'm not saying you don't have to put hard work in, but it's easier compared to working for somebody else. You don't want to be a reseller who's quitting to go work for somebody else. Most people get into reselling because that's exactly what they don't want to do. So my friend, I want to encourage you today. Make sure you're growing. Make sure you've improved over the years. Make sure you are adapting. Make sure you're not performing at the same level or doing the same things, expecting better results. Grow, learn, mature, improve your business. And if you have to, like I said for sourcing, go to a different city. Go to a different state if you have to. Do what you have to do to get the results you want to get. Don't make excuses. Don't quit. Know you can do this, my friend. And I also want to encourage you, if you need help, if you're a new reseller, or maybe you've been selling for a long time, but you're basically at the level of a new reseller because you've been doing the same things for many years, I encourage you, go to my website, sign up for my coaching. I can help you. I can get you out of the rut you're in, and I can get you to a level of success that you'll be happy and you'll never have to think about quitting ever again. My friend, I pray this is a blessing for you. May God bless you richly.